The Power Moms Network, empowering moms to lift the world.
Welcome. I'm Riley Karsh.
I'm Tova Kopan.
We are thrilled to bring you the We Go Boldly podcast.
Let's talk big burning questions, life changes, and maybe a bit of personal business.
Let's be bold and brave together. Are you ready?
I am. Here comes the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Go Boldly, the podcast where we celebrate women stepping into their power and living their most authentic lives, whatever that looks like for them. We are also thrilled to be a part of the Power Moms Network. At Power Moms Network, we are empowering moms and creating a community of mothers mentoring other moms to greatness. It is a cool place to be. Please come and check it out. Whether or not you're a mom, it's worth having a look. So we would love to see you over there. We're taking a short break from interviews. As you know, if you've been following along, season 12, we're talking all about being the author of your own story, being the captain of your own ship, so to speak, and what that means and what does it look like and how are people doing that and how can you do that? And it's, I think, an important and relevant season for the times we're living in right now. And so we actually decided to take a little break, as I said, from interviewing, and we're going to talk to you guys today about shaping your narrative in different ways. Before we dive in to our full hello topic, let me welcome Tova to the show. I'm stumbling over my words today. Welcome to the show, Tova. How are you? What's going on?
Well, it is sunny, so that is exciting. And I have a dog, and that is exciting. We adopted our dog this weekend. We made it official. So that's kind of jumping right into the topic at hand. Um, is is how to is partly how it's so hard to answer the question, how are you? Right? Like right now, it is not easy to answer the question like, how are you doing? And I think one of the reasons that we wanted to take a break is because not take a break, but take a step back from our interviews, is because we have been having such a special time this month with our women's circle. And we have been really diving into how do we show up each and every week in the world? Like literally, how do we do this? Like, how do we show up? What does that look like? We are all women in the women's circle. Many of us are mothers in the like active portion of mothering. And I mean that I think everyone's in an active portion of mothering. You're mothering for your whole life. But like many of us are in the like physically having to take children to school each morning portion
Right,
of it.
right.
Um, but I think no matter whether you're a woman or not, whether you're doing that physical aspect of mothering or not, we are all faced in this current state of the world with like, how do you go about things as if they are normal while also not wanting to pretend that things are normal? How do we keep striving for our personal goals and writing our own story and setting these big dreams and setting out to achieve these things when we are also like struggling with these concepts of do we need to make sure our passports are updated and what is happening on an existential level in our country? Like, how do we do it? And it is something that we have been talking a lot about in the group, and we've been talking about um, from a self-care perspective, and then also just like a how do we do it? And Riley, you and I have been trying to create some different materials. I know we've like really struggled with the words because
Yeah.
we keep using like corporate speak of
Yep.
like leave behinds or whatever. Oh, the sun is very bright as it comes in my eyes right now.
You're glowing.
I'm glad you know I'm shining. Um, and just ways to help help us help others navigate how to do this and how to connect. And so I say all of that to say it's really hard to answer, how are you? Right? Like it's like, well, okay, like we got to school okay this morning. It was a very normal morning. Like it seems like the kids are going to eat their lunch. They liked it, what I packed. That's good. But like also there was this wild group chat that was exposed yesterday with like national security secrets. How is this real?
Yeah.
And so um I think that it's a very hard thing to answer and hard to figure out. And I don't know that we necessarily have the answers, but we do have ideas and we do have things that have helped us, and that we try to work on each day, right?
Yeah. Yes, of course. I think, just to rewind a little bit, obviously we're talking about writing our story this season, and we're talking about like I was thinking, I'm going to be like maybe more transparent than I should be, but I was thinking about this morning in terms of like, what do we really do with our company and what do we do with our podcast? And our aim, and we don't really say it out loud all the time, but our aim is to help each woman undo the patriarchy in their lives, right? Like that's really what we're talking about. We don't use those terms because sometimes that makes people like push back, like, oh, but I'm a feminist and I don't succumb to that. And the truth is, much like, there is systemic racism, there is the patriarchy, and we are all a part of it. And so I think just the goal of this conversation today is to talk a little more bluntly about how patriarchy and how current events are impacting our capacity to write our own story and how that's happening. And then, consequently, like, what can we do? Because I, we can't be silent. You can't just be like, oh, okay, everything's fine. Because it's not fine. It's not okay. And what's happening in the world, in our country, is not okay. And I think so many people feel that way and have no idea what to do and are so overwhelmed that it becomes paralyzing, or are afraid to speak up or feel uncomfortable. And so, what I think we want to talk about today, Tova, correct me if you disagree, but I don't think you do, is what are you going to do? Right? Because staying silent, if you're silent currently, that's a problem. It's a problem for you, it's a problem for me, and it's a problem for the rest of the world. So, what can you do? We can't save everyone all the time, right? We can't be, and nor should we want to be like the savior that's going to come riding in on the white horse and fix all the problems. What we've talked about a lot in the group, the women's circle, that is figuring out what issues are your passion issues, right? Like what's going on in the world that you care the most about. And I say that as someone who cares about all of it, but like there are certain things that impact me more than others, right? And whether it's personally or professionally or just, human beingly, that's not a word. Um, and so those are the things where I'm directing my energy, and I'm doing that because this is a marathon, not a sprint. And like, if I want to stick to it, I have to be energized by it. I got off topic a little bit. I like took a swerve
No.
there. Um, and I skipped a bunch of stuff in our outline. Which is, whatever. I got rattled because my cat made a mess right before we got on here. Um, so let's again backtrack and talk. Well, go ahead, Toa. You want
I
to?
just want to say, like, let's talk about that for a second, though. Like, I made a joke last week, except it wasn't a joke. In the in the in the circle, which was like, I cannot be the type of parent that I want to be and also deal with fascism and plantar fasciitis. Like, I just
Right.
can't. Fascism or plantar fasciitis and be the parent I want to be, but not both. And it's like you are dealing with, a kid who has a stomach bug and all the normal kid stuff and this extra layer of just horror. And now your cat's peeing on things. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
Really? And so I think that's something that's really important to talk about. And it's like, no, Tiger, I am trying to do something serious right now. Like, you can't be peeing on things. I do not have the, and I hate this terminology, but the bandwidth to handle you peeing on things.
No.
And I think that it is important to like acknowledge that we are all dealing with a shorter amount of patience and we are all more on edge. And if we don't acknowledge that, if we don't recognize it, if we don't take the steps to address it, there's going to be, as you said, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. And there are going to be repercussions for all of us physically, like negative repercussions physically. When you look at the burden that like the Black community takes physically on like the generational trauma and what it looks like physically, and the stress that it can cause just generation after generation, when you start holding on to stress, but also just emotionally what it can do. And it means that you're not able to show up as the parent that you want to be or the employee that you need to be. I know for me, my anxiety when I'm not dealing with it, and I can tell it's happening. But like the brain fog is so
Yeah.
intense. And it's like it's this balance of figuring out like what do we need? I know yesterday you and I needed to have a call in the morning, but I also knew what was happening to me is I was jumping into my week and I wasn't doing my Monday morning things. And it meant that my Monday morning things were never getting done. And like my Monday morning things are like writing out on my planner like my whole week and getting a handle on what tasks need to be done. And so literally I would spend all week going, "Oh, I need to write down what I'm supposed to be doing this week. I need to write down my list." And
Right.
then at some point it's like, "Oh, it's Thursday. It's just what's the point?" And like so I spend all week feeling ungrounded. And so I said to you like, and that's not the only task. There's a couple Monday morning things I put in quotes, but they're like, I don't know why, because they're my Monday morning things. And I said to you, like, I can't do a Zoom. I can talk on the phone because I know we need to do things, but I need to do my Monday morning things. Because if I don't get them done first thing Monday morning, they will not get done all week and I will feel stressed all week long. And you were like, yeah, that's fine. I don't need to see you. Um,
Well,
but
and just to be clear, I was folding laundry, which would not have gotten done all week had I not done it.
yeah.
That was the literally the only time I had this week to do it.
Yeah, and I think like figuring out like where we have these boundaries so that we can still, by the way, have the conversation that we need to have so we can record a podcast so that we can have, the thing that is still our goals and our dreams in
Right.
this world that's still important to us. And so I think it is important as we are getting circling back, which we're going to do have to do because we're going this whole episode is
It's
going to
gonna be
be
a big spiral.
yeah. Um, it is going to be this whole process as we're focusing on still figuring out how to write our story and how to create beauty and art and be the parents we want to be and create joy in our children's lives and create joy in our own lives and not I've said this before and I'm going to emphasize it again, not create joy in my kids' lives just for them but for me, like
Yeah.
create a world that I want to live in and exist in and figure out what that looks like now even during these times. And we just I don't use this lightly, and I also don't use this example as heavily as it sounds. But my son is on the Titanic, like that's his their current unit in social studies. So we just watched the Titanic, and I always picture like the Harry Chapin song of the dance band on the Titanic, but I always picture like the gentlemen who playing the strings on the Titanic as it's like going down.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we are not on the Titanic. I really, really hope we're not on the Titanic.
Yeah, well,
But
I think
if,
a lot of people are rose on the door, not letting anyone else on the door, but that's beside the point.
yeah, I mean, I did walk around all night going, "I'll never let go, Jack. I'll never let go." And I'm
Except
just
I
like
will.
pushing.
Right.
But But you know what? If we are on the Titanic, I want to be one of the string players. Like, or maybe someone like helping others. But like either way, like I'm not going to be the captain that's just like, oh man, I really messed up, didn't I? And I'm not just going to be like resigned and I'm not going to be like the guy who's like, well, screw you all. I'm going to like pretend I have a kid and get on a lifeboat. Like I'm either going to be a helper or I'm going to be creating joy.
Yeah.
I'm going to be some light here. And
Yeah.
like, and so I think that goes to like, how are we going to shape our role? And I think it is important that we figure it out and that we're okay with what we can do. And we're going to take a quick break, but and come right back. But I want that to be what we talk about next because we cannot be all the things to all the people, right? Like apparently I'm sticking with the Titanic analogy. Like the guys could not have been playing the music and handing out the life preservers. They can't do both,
Right.
but they provided such a gift. We all know that they were really there. Like it's a true story, maybe not as depicted in the movie, but it is a true story that they played. Um, and that was a gift to people. And it is important that they were there. Also important that there were people handing out the life jackets, right? So I think that we need to figure out what is it that we can do and what is our role. And this has been a really special conversation that we've had in the circle. So let's just take a quick break and then we will be right back.
Well, hey there, dream chaser. Are you ready to make the next 12 months of your life unforgettable? Introducing the Year of You, a groundbreaking new goal system group that's about to redefine the way we approach personal growth. Join us with a community of like minded individuals committed to unlocking their full potential with expert guidance, personalized strategies, kind hearted accountability, and a supportive network. The Year of You is more than just a goal setting group, it's a whole movement. Don't just dream about it, achieve it. Click in the link in our show notes or go ahead and visit us at goboldlyinitiative.com/year of you to learn more today. Let's embark on a transformative journey together towards becoming the best versions we can be. The Year of You, where your goals become reality.
Okay, welcome back. So we just left off talking about, you know, what is it that we can do during this time? And I think especially for women, but honestly, almost like anybody listening to a podcast that's about like personal development, you're probably like, whoever you are, whatever gender you identify with, like in all likelihood, if you're listening to a personal development podcast, you're a type of person who's like a go-getter. And you're probably thinking like, but I like to be a leader and I want to be on the front lines and I want to do things. And, you know, the fact is that yes, that's awesome. And we need people doing that, but we need people not doing that too. Like we need people who are, leading from behind and who are writing letters to the editor and doing other sorts of activism. And if you can't do any of those things because you're working multiple jobs and you are taking care of your kids and or you're just, not in a position financial or otherwise to like be getting on a bus every weekend. Like even if you're not working a lot of jobs, but your kids have sports and you can't go away every weekend to a protest. Like there are all sorts of reasons that you can't be doing things. There are so many things that you can do.
Yeah, I just want to share a quick story from so my kids I've become friendly with some of my son's parents, friends' parents. And it's interesting because, when you are standing on the soccer sideline or the baseball dugout sideline, whatever it's called, um, you're usually just talking about your kids and whatever. And so I have hit a breaking point recently where I cannot just be like, oh, everything's cool. And it's interesting because I think it's something we can all do is have these sort of subtle conversations with people. I'm not suggesting you like get in someone's face and start yelling at them. That's ineffective. Although maybe relieving for you, I don't know. Um, But like you can have subtle conversations and feel people out. Like if you don't know them and you don't know where they stand and you don't know what they believe, to kind of create an environment where people feel more comfortable having those kinds of conversations. And that is doing something, right? And
Yes.
I've done that and it was like not surprising because like I know the people and I'm like I think they're cool and we share values and all those things, but it's not a conversation that had ever been had. And so to sort of like feel it out was I think an opening, right? Like it's an opening to create community. And when you create community based around shared values, it sort of ostracizes the ugly things, right? Like it keeps those ugly things away. And shows that like, hey, I don't agree with that. Like I don't agree with somebody who thinks DEI is bad or who thinks that the Department of Education should not exist. Like that, I don't agree with those things. And I don't agree with them because of politics, but I also don't agree with them because of my personal values, right?
Yep.
And so being able to bring those conversations to the forefront in environments where they don't typically exist, if you can do it in a safe and healthy way, I think it's something you can go out there and do. And I brought that up now because you're talking about like, okay, well, you're overwhelmed, you can't do anything, and it is too much, but you can do things, right? Like we can do things like that, or we can, you know, if we see a post on social media that like really speaks to us, we can comment on it and like lift that post up, right? Or if we see something where you're like, wow, that's racist, you can be like, that's racist and I'm not going to agree with it, right? So
Yeah.
there's ways that you can do things that don't involve a lot of time or even mental energy.
Yeah, and I think like as you were saying, um, you know, I'm very open, if you are following me on social media or anything, like I'm very open with my political beliefs and things on social media. I wasn't always that way. Like I was pretty hesitant for a long time about that. I had like a fledgling but semi-legitimate like Beachbody business, and I was like, oh, I don't want to alienate anyone. And then I was like, it hit me like it hurt so much internally to not be true to who I was. And also I was like, well, who don't I want to alienate? Like, who am I worried about alienating? And I get that it's different in, what I've been calling tactile life, because like online is still real life, but um like tactile life, because as parents can say things to their kids, and you don't want to make your kids' lives harder. Um, but, I was at a birthday party the other day and I was talking to a mom, and we didn't talk politics in the traditional sense, but she was saying, like, it's so frustrating. Like, I can't just go and buy a gift card at Target or Amazon anymore. Like, she's like, it is just so annoying. And she's like, thank goodness Dick's is like stepping up. Like, and because now we get all of our gift cards for birthday parties at Dick's. Like, at least we can go there. And like, hopefully they stay strong. And that was before they even made a bigger statement. Now, like, Dick's on their either at the entrance or on their changing rooms, they have signs about how everybody's welcome, and it's great. And they've like doubled down. And she's like, at least we can go to Dick's and like buy things and buy, you know, buy gift cards. And I said, yeah, it's very frustrating. Like, especially Target, which we thought was,
Yeah.
like supporting, they paid their workers well. Like on the outside, it seemed like they were doing a good job. And now we're not shopping there. And it's very frustrating. Like I can't find my son's toothpaste and he's like freaking out right now. I am like, a very little left in this very little sample size. But we decide where our dollars go. Like that's something that you can do. But
Yeah.
I also think there's strength in talking about it. Like I was talking to someone about it yesterday. Well, so anyway, I was talking to this mom. We weren't making it political, but we weren't saying like we're not buying because of the oligarchs or because of the DEI policy. We left that unsaid. And so if there was another parent around, they could have said, why aren't they buying stuff from them? And they could have looked it up, right? But we were showing support to each other. And we had political talks in the past, so we knew that we were in alignment with each other. Um, and then there's also, though, like yesterday I was talking to somebody, my physical therapist, and I was just saying like something similar about like, yeah, we went here, and she said, it's so nice to hear you say that because, I'm not buying from them either. And like, I think she felt alone in that. And so maybe you may be like, well, I'm not buying from Target. I'm not buying from Amazon, but talk about it with people. Like, have those conversations. As you said, making those connections and building a community, like maybe you're listening to us and you're thinking, a community of people that don't shop at Target? Yes. Yes, we used to have a wonderful community of people who did shop at Target, and it was so
It's been
joyful.
ruined. It's ruined.
We loved it.
Yeah,
Just
no, I
bring the
agree.
DEIs back, people. We all want to shop at Target again.
Yeah.
And now we all go to Costco and we buy a lot of stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
so
I need a bigger
they
basement.
win. They win.
They do win.
Um, and you sent me an article about how much they win,
Yeah,
which
they
is
win a
good.
lot, which makes me feel good. Yeah, I just want to circle back to that idea of community building, right? I think, you know, there will be people who will be like, well, what is you're not going to affect, and this actually goes to that article. You're not going to affect, anyone by not shopping at Target or by not, you know, buying from Amazon or whatever. And the truth is, like you individually, one person, no, you probably won't. But it's not one person. It's just
Right.
like you're saying your vote doesn't matter. Of course it matters. You never know when you're going to be the one vote that mattered, right? Like you can't predict that kind of thing. And so participating in it allows you to help build the momentum around a community of people who don't shop at Target anymore, or people who do vote, or people who care about other people, right? Like we can build that community and make it louder and bigger. There's so many more of us than there are of people who don't care about people. We're just not as loud sometimes, I think. And so getting louder and not in a crazed like January 6th kind of way, like in a healthy, discourse kind of way.
Well, and I think part of the reason that we are not louder is because we're busy doing things. Like
Yeah.
I'm listening to an interview with Andy Boucher, who I love, right? Like he's just delightful. And like, people, if you ask who my crushes are, it's like, well, Andy Boucher and like Reverend Warnock, like
Yeah.
listening to that man talk like I don't know, like policy. I'm just like, oh, just keep talking policy to me. But like, you listen to these guys and Governor Warnock, Governor Boucher is talking about like he shot down, I think he was talking about legislation about outlawing conversion therapy.
Hmm.
But then he talked about like, but the next day I'm at a factory and I'm like building it. And like we're busy doing things. We're busy going to like, the human needs food pantry and like donating at the food bank and like running the town council. Like we're busy doing things.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't leave as much space for the yelling and just the being angry.
Yeah.
We have talked a lot about how powerful anger is. And I think, yesterday I have a new dog and I don't know when he has to go to the bathroom. And so all we do is walk. We just walk. We just walk all the time. And I mean, we're averaging like 20,000 steps a day. And when I say average, I mean that's like our bottom. Like, and so my therapist last week asked me how I was handling everything. And I'm like, well, I'm not meditating and I'm not journaling. I just walk everywhere. My rage, it leaves my body through the walking.
Right.
Um, and I mean, it's still there, but it gets less. But I think that like the other side has figured out that manufactured rage is so powerful. And as angry as we are, what makes us feel good is like community and being with other like-minded people and sharing in like joyful like support and like helping others. And it doesn't lead to rage when you're doing that. Like I don't when we join our women's circle every Wednesday, um I don't leave rageful.
Right.
Like I leave like filled with hope and feeling a little less helpless and a little less exhausted. And I mean that could be why they're winning, I don't know. But like it also makes me think that's why they're losing. Like so it's all very confusing. But I guess my point to all of this, and this goes to something that we wanted to talk about is, and you had mentioned it at the beginning, is as you're figuring out how you shape your role and you write your story during this time, maybe figuring out what you are really passionate about. Because as we've said, you can't do all the things. You can't be all the things to all the people, but you can do something. You
Yeah.
know, maybe it is like using an example of someone in our women's circle. She said, food insecurity is something that really upsets her. And so she is taking it upon herself just to donate more to the local food pantry. Like she just recognizes like there is a need. And so she's going to start with donating more. Like that's it. That is her first, that is what she is going to do. It is something that she cares a lot about. Food has always provided solace in her life, not just like eating, but like baking and cooking. And she just wants to do something. And so she's going to donate food.
Right.
And it seems so obvious. Like there's a straight line to something that she cares about and an action. And I think that figuring out what you are passionate about is like such a great important first step.
Yeah.
And then figuring out like, okay, what is that something that I can do? Because it's so easy to get overwhelmed.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to remember that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? Like
Mm,
whatever you're passionate about, you don't have to create the organization that solves the problem, right? You just have to find one that's working on it or,
yeah.
donate to the food pantry or, volunteer at a helpline, for kids or whatever. Wherever your passion lies, you can find a space that's already working on it. And so I think you said this at some point, and we do need to take another break, but you did mention like you don't have to be the leader, right? You can be like, I hate this analogy, but you can be the foot soldier. You can be out there, boots on the ground, working on the thing. You don't have to create the solution. You can just participate in being a part of the solution. You can create it, though I tend to, like if it's an area where nothing already exists, right? Which is rare, but it does happen. Um, you can create something, or if you really feel passionately about a topic and you have all the time in the world, then go for it. But if you're like overwhelmed, like you said, Tova, and don't know where to start or what to do, if you care about gun violence in schools, join Moms Demand Action. If you care about people running for office, join She Should Run, or some, I don't know, we can list a bajillion different organizations, and be a mentor, or be like work on somebody's campaign, or
Yeah.
write, if you're a writer, write copy. Like there's a billion ways you can participate.
And even if you do decide to start something, recognize that you still don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Like we in our community, they've started a local sort of group to support women in our community to basically run for something. So it's like a
Hmm.
very, very local group. But when we're talking about educating women in our group how to run for things or support other women, it's like, well, the League of Women Voters has education. Run for Something has education. She Should Run. Like all these groups have courses to take, they have workshops. Like we don't actually have to create the education. So, yes, we can create the group, we can send out the like monthly meeting, but like we don't have to create the and you've created, Riley yourself has created so much of the education. So like we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And like and even as you said, like I was thinking about where there are holes, there might you may know a hole because so many people that I think that you and I know are wonderful connectors,
Mm,
and they might see like, oh wait, there aren't holes, but these two groups should work together.
yeah.
And I know someone at this group and someone at that group, and I could connect them. And that maybe you're the magic that could make the connection. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't have to do everything. And I know we'll take a break in a moment. But something that I think is so important because I think it can get so overwhelming when we look at the national level. So much can be done, and I think needs to be done at the local level. And so, yes, there's a lot to be done at the national level. I call my senators every single day and the Congress people every single day. And I say every single day. There have been a couple of times during the last few months where I've been like, I need to take some days off. And I
Yeah.
do. I take a couple of days off because I'm just like, I can't. And then I get back to it. But so I just want to be like transparent to that. Like I do because I just get burnt out. But I there's so much that can be like if you care about the attack on libraries, go to your local library and see how you can help. Like yes, there
Yeah.
are national library organizations that you can join, and that's awesome. But you can also just go to your local library and see how you can help.
Yeah, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to continue to talk about this like hyper localism because I do think it's such a great entry point for anyone who is like, I want to do something, but I have no idea what to do. It can be such a good place to start. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about that. We'll be right back, everyone.
Hey, pod friends, it's us again. Looking for a place to collaborate, an opportunity to share your knowledge? Have you been working so hard on a podcast, book, course, product, or retreat? Do you have insights that could light up our podcast? Well, we want to hear from you. We would love to support you in all that you are and do. Join us at Go Boldly Initiative, where we celebrate diverse perspectives and share the wisdom of our incredible community. Whether you're an expert, a hobbyist, or simply love learning, we invite you to reach out with your ideas. Visit our website at goboldlyinitiative.com/podcast guests to pitch the show or shoot us an email at hello@goboldlyinitiative.com to talk all things collaboration, advertising, and affiliation opportunities. Become part of our growing family. Let's make learning an adventure together.
Okay, so welcome back to the show. Before the break, Tova, you were talking about really the concept of hyperlocalism, and I think it's such a great point to make, and I want to highlight it further because if you're out there and you're like, okay, that feels like I can't go to a march, I can't go to I can't like go to Congress and speak, I can't, I can't do all those other things. What can I do? Or, I know. I just want to be transparent about this. Tova and I talk about this stuff every single day. We live and breathe it. It is really other than parenting, it is really what we do and think about. And even when we're parenting, we're doing and thinking about it. So we understand that like average citizen is not out there sitting, maybe, I mean, a lot of you are, but I want to acknowledge if this is not your like bread and butter, if this is not your jam, if this is there's a lot of food, I'm hungry. If this is not your thing, like that you are constantly thinking and talking about, that's okay. You don't, we recognize that like it's easier for us in a sense that we're so immersed in it and it's a constant part of our lives. That being said, the hyperlocalism allows you a more safe, I don't, this feels weird to say it this way, but a more safe entry point, right? Like
Yeah.
an entry point that might feel more comfortable for you. Like there's a library issue out here where a town wants to close a community library and people are mad. They love the library. It does so much for them and there was no community input. And so it's like, it's a mess. And I see people who have to my knowledge, and I've been very involved locally, have never been involved in anything, right? And they're out there organizing and communicating and going to the town council and saying, what are you doing? We don't want you to do this. And that's the kind of thing where you can create community, where you can find, people who are like-minded, who care about the same stuff you care about, who share your values, and you can figure out how to get started. And who knows where it'll go from there. Maybe you will get involved with a national library organization of some kind. We don't know for you, and you don't either, and that's okay. But if you start somewhere and you start local and small, maybe you go to a board of education meeting, right? And learn about how they budget. And because it's crazy how they budget, at least here in New Jersey. Not that they're doing a bad job, just like it's really hard. It's hard work
And
what
by the
they're
way, if
doing.
you're in New Jersey, those meetings are happening right now
Yeah.
for next year, just in
Yeah.
case you're wondering.
Yeah. And it's just like really hard work how they do it.
Last month.
And it's, if you go to those meetings and you learn about it, that's one step closer to your engagement, right? Like it doesn't we keep reiterating this. It doesn't have to be that you show up and like run for president. That's not realistic for most of us. But you
Yeah.
can show up at your town council meetings and ask why there's no, pride event in June in the town. You can ask why there's no flags in your community. You can, or if there are, you can be like, I'm so appreciative that you're doing this and that this is happening, right? Like those kinds of things really do matter, and they matter at all times, but especially now.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I'm gonna reiterate that I don't want to compare two sides or say there's two sides, but right now it feels like there's like two sides. And I know you reminded me today that there's like the third side of
Yeah.
like just a silent group that's just going about their business. Um, and I'm going to assume if you're listening to this, then you're not part of the silent group, or maybe you are and you don't know what to do and you don't want to be part of it, but you don't know what to do, so then you're not really part of it. Um, but um, one of the things I think that is it, one of the reasons that, how do I say this? Like, if you've ever been to a concert and everybody sings a song together and it's like really amazing because you're all part of the same song, or you all root for the same sports team, right? And you're part of this. I mean, I went to an Eagles Super Bowl parade and it was just like amazing. You're just like everybody there, you're a friend with everybody. Like because you're just it's amazing. Um, it shows how important community is. And, there's a mom that I volunteer with for socials. And we have done now 4 socials together for our seventh graders. So we did it 2 and 5th grade, sixth and seventh. We don't really know each other. We don't, we have each other's phone numbers because of the socials. We would say hi to each other when we see each other in the hallway, but like we do not interact other than the socials. She's delightful, but like our kids aren't friends. So, but we have this really lovely experience every time it's social time. And I made a joke. I was like, do you think we're going to end up having to plan the 8th grade formal? And she's like, I didn't even sign up for the 7th grade social, but they just added us as shares because we did it before. And I was like, oh, we are going to end up planning the 8th grade formal. Um, and, but we now have this thing that we've done. Like, and it's easy. I mean, she honestly does the bulk of the work, but I manage the door. So I'm like the bouncer. Um, and so we do we have this special thing that we do together. I'm not saying it's as magical as seeing someone like at an Eagles Super Bowl parade, but it's special. It's like volunteering together. And there is something special about like having a connection with somebody that you did something together.
Yeah.
So whether you volunteer at like your library's used book sale, or whether you're volunteering as part of something else, or whether you just start going to, like, as you said, you start going in person to your school board meetings, you'll notice there's like 3 other people from your town that go to the school board meetings and you'll get to know them because there's no one else who shows up in person. It is nice to be part of that community, right? It's nice to be part of a group. Or if you start talking about how, oh, I'm not shopping at Amazon, and I will be honest, I have cut out Target completely. I have not totally cut out Amazon. There's
Same.
a handful of things. I have reduced it significantly. Um, and there are just a handful of things that I, it's not a matter of speed. It's a matter of like, I cannot find them at other places.
It's very hard. It's
So,
very hard.
I'm working on it. We are working on it. But, you know, like, there is that feeling of connection, and it is incredibly important. And it may even be, you may be part of a book club, and I want book clubs to turn into action, so I hesitate, like, just pick a book written by like a Black author. Like, I want book clubs to be something else. But like, um, I think that finding connection in a book club and like saying like, okay, are there members of my book club? Do we all share the same values? Is this something that maybe us as a group could do something together? We all care about books. Do we all care about supporting our local bookstores? Do we all care about supporting our local library? Like maybe you already have a community that exists that share the same values as you, that you can then go together and support something that you all care about.
Yeah.
Um, there's, I think it is just so important because did you say that I know that you were quoting somebody else, but that the like anecdote for anxiety is action.
Yeah. Yeah. It and it absolutely is. Anxiety causes paralysis, right? It causes, like you were saying, Tova, that brain fog feeling, the feeling like you're wringing your hands, that chest tightness, stomach ache, inability to move physically and mentally, right? Because we move mentally too. Um, and the way, we could talk a whole episode about techniques for breaking through anxiety spirals. And in fact, we did do that. But one of the main ways to get through your anxiety is to take action, whatever it looks like. And it can be little actions. It doesn't have to be everything. You can volunteer at your community day and make, I don't know, have a table where you sign people up to vote or, get people registered to vote or whatever you do. Um, it doesn't have to be enormous. And I think that gets in so many people's way.
Yeah.
And when you find a community that you can participate with, it takes away that fear. So I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to fight with anyone and I don't want to be confrontational and I don't want to upset the boat or I don't want to make it harder for my kids at school. And like I actually I don't do that one because it already will be harder for my kids at school, so I don't worry about it. Um, but but if you do, there's nothing wrong with that. Like of course we're worried about our kids at school. Um, I lost my train of thought speaking of brain fog. But if we take steps, if we take steps forward, it allows us to kind of breathe. I don't know. That seems so simple, but really it lets you breathe, right? It lets you go, okay, I'm doing something. And you and I talked about this yesterday, Tova. It's never going to feel like enough if you care, right? Like if you care about the country, if you care about people, if you care about human rights, you're never going to go to bed and be like, I did it, right?
Yeah.
Just like with parenting, you're never going to be like, I was perfect, and it's like that's it. I'm done. I checked the box. There is no box to check because you're never done. And that in and of itself can feel overwhelming. And that's why we want you to think about like, where am I passionate? Like where do where are my superpowers, right? Like what is my special skill? If you're a connector, like you were talking about, Tova, if you're a public speaker, if you're a writer, if you're an artist and you have an imagination or whatever, everyone has a superpower. Maybe you're an engineer and you know how to put things together and you can help um, you know, build something for an organization. There are a million different ways we can be involved. We have to just take that first step and get past the fear and the anxiety and the worry and the what ifs and the how is this going to impact, my kids or my spouse or my life. Within the bounds of safety, we, obviously take care of yourself first. Um, and do the things you need to do, but there are so many ways you can be involved that are safe and healthy and good for everyone.
Yeah, and we could have had a whole conversation about self-care in
Mm,
here, which we didn't because we've talked about it before. Um, but I've also thought about, you know, I I've been thinking a lot about, and one of my goals today is to sit down and write a couple notes, one specifically to my son's civics teacher, to just thank him for all the work he's doing, because I do wonder if he's getting negative um, feedback. And he's not
yeah,
making anything political. He's not taking anything, like, he's not making anything political. But I wonder, are their parents going, are you're making things political? And I don't know. But I was like, I better write him a note and just thank him for like teaching my son all the civics. Like, I really, really
yeah,
appreciate what he's doing. And so I also wrote Target a note and said, this is why I bought, I shopped at you X number of times in December and X number of times in January. And I've gone to you once since the end of January. And it's because I forgot that I wasn't shopping at you anymore. And it was an accident. But I wrote Costco a note and I said, just to be clear, I have shifted a lot of my shopping to you. And it was a positive note. So that's something else you can do.
Yeah.
You can write positive notes. You can write notes to librarians thanking them for all the hard work they're doing. You
Yep.
can write positive notes to, I try whenever I go to my local bookstore to take pictures of what I buy and share it. I try, my son, there was an author's visit and he took pictures of, or I took a picture of the book that he signed. He was so excited about it. I don't put pictures of my kids online. So I took a picture of him with the book when he was reading right after school, and I sent it to the librarian. And I said, he rushed home to read this. He's so excited. And then I took a picture of the book with the signature, and I posted it online, and I tagged the librarian and I tagged the author. Like, listen, I want us all to be pushing back as hard as I can. I want everyone, I want the homework to be download the Five Calls app, sign up to call your Congress people, sign up to call your senator. Let's call every day. If you need to take a day off, take a day off and come back the next day. Like, let's find out what we're passionate about. Let's do good work. Let's do activism. Let's help. But also, if this is the first time you're doing anything and you don't even know what to do, put good things in the world, right? Like, push back on the positive. If your superintendent did something good, tell them they did something good. If the board of ed is doing something good, tell them they did something good. If you appreciate what your town council is doing, tell them. Because guess what they get all the time? Negative feedback. They're constantly being told by the super loud, angry people that what they're doing is wrong. There is a reason, AOC talked about this, that she said, she still gets calls all the time from the other side telling her, do this, do this, do this. And she's like, they're not calling me because they think they're going to change my mind. They're calling me to make sure that I know that they're still there. And so we need to be the counterbalance. So, like, listen, yesterday on my call where I was like, listen, I called before the group chat dropped. So I was calling yesterday about the Venezuelans, the horrors that's happening to people who have been picked up because they're merely being Venezuelan descent. And I called them and I said, I called all my Congress people. But at the end, I said, I appreciate all you're doing because all my Congress people are out there doing stuff and they're being loud about it. I said, please keep going. And I appreciate everything everyone in your office is doing. Because I'm like, at the beginning, I'm like, I demand that you do X, Y, and Z. This is horrible. Congress has to do something. And then at the end, I'm like, and thank you so much for everything everybody in the office is doing. Because we can say thank you. These people are doing hard, hard jobs.
Yeah.
So like, you know, find find a way to shape your role. Yeah, we were talking to somebody, there's a woman in our women's group. Her whole job is advocacy. So like she's not going to spend her time. I mean, she is because that's who she is, but she needs to find a balance to not be advocating when she's not working.
Right.
But maybe it is sending notes to the librarian thanking them, right? Like,
Yeah. I like it's speaking from personal experience, one of the hardest parts of being a local elected official is having people in your community just assume you have bad intentions, right? Like it feels terrible because you're volunteering essentially. And it's a thankless kind of job. It's not something where people come to you and are like, thanks so much for doing that. That's great. And a lot of the stuff you do is, you know, like I analogize it to like when you have to fix your water heater in your house. It's not sexy. It's boring. And people don't like aren't appreciative of it. But if it didn't happen, you would have no hot water, right? Those are the kinds of things your local elected officials are doing. They're not impacting your, like DEI policy or things like that. Although they can if they try, like locally, but that's another conversation.
well, need to wrap up.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about that really fast, really, really fast, just to give you, let me use my little town as a template. All right. When I moved into my little town, it was purple. I moved in 2007. My town was super purple. The town next to it was super purple. Since then, the town next to it has gone not so purple, and our town has been going blue. And I'm just going to use my town as a little example because it was not blue. We're in a Republican state Senate congressional district, super Republican. Like I don't know how we are, but we are very much so. And my town is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But after what happened in 2020 with George Floyd, we had a Black Lives Matter march. And what I will say is our police chief listened and he was there. They were one of our police were one of the co-sponsors of the Black Lives Matters March, which is amazing. And they listened. And it opened up the door for our town to decide that they wanted a mission statement for the town. Interesting mission statement. Well, that spurred a thought for us, and we can talk about it in a minute. But we ended up having a mission statement for our town about what it would look like. And we did not use the words diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we decided we wanted to have a mission statement for our town that talked about how welcoming it was for everyone. Because we realized was it was not welcoming for everyone in our town. We thought it was, but our town was not welcoming for everyone by any stretch of the imagination. And then that led our town to start a multicultural accessibility inclusivity committee. That's not its name, but I'll get it right one of these days. I've been on it now for 6 months. I'll figure it out. And we host a variety of events. We host a pride event. We host a women's leadership event. We host just a ton of events. We also, work with the library, work with the school board. We push to make sure that we have a wonderful, beautiful playground that is super accessible. I mean, we have a playground that if you're in a wheelchair, you can like do things on the playground. It's amazing. So like, and we work with the town council and, we knock on a boatload of doors. Like, so when all of New Jersey went super way Republican, even though it's still blue, but it went swung, our town didn't move. And it's super small. Our town is really, really small. So this is like hyper focused, but it matters. Like the little stuff we do matters. And I'm sure there are a lot of people in our town that still don't feel welcome. I'm sure that we have a lot of work to do. But we're trying, right? We're trying to be better. And I'm proud that like we didn't read one book and have one march and we're like, cool, we're good now.
Yeah.
We did it. And so there is space wherever you live, even if it's like encouraging your middle schooler to start a group in her middle school, like whatever it might be, like you can do something. There's space.
Yeah.
So we hope that even though now is like this insanely overwhelming time, that we can figure out a path to keep writing our story. And we'll come back next week with like more inspirational stories, but still shape a path through all
Yeah.
of.
Yeah. A story we can be proud of when we look back, right? So I think we've spent a lot of time giving you ideas about, what can you do? How can you be involved? If you have questions or you're like, I still don't really know what I should do, feel free to reach out to us. We will always answer emails and messages and do our best to point you in the right direction. Also, join our weekly women's circle. It has been a delightful month. We did open it up for the month of March to anyone who was sort of struggling with, the fall of democracy, who was working in advocacy and struggling with that. And hopefully those folks will continue on with us and you will join us. You can find out more about the group at goboldlyinitiative.com/weekly circle. We would love to have you join. It as you said, Tova, it is we come away from it feeling energized rather than sad. I mean, maybe a little sad sometimes, but like more energized than anything else. And on top of that, we have decided to relaunch a course we put together, I don't know, a long time ago at this point.
Yeah.
And it used to be called Defining You. We're relaunching it and rebranding it and sort of refreshing it for you guys because in this time of writing our own story in the midst of this chaos, right, it would be really helpful to know with some degree of certainty what your values are, what your purpose is, what it is that you feel like is the defining core of who you are? And that's a really deep, hard question. And I think it requires some assistance to get to the answer. It certainly did for us. So stay tuned for more information. It is going to be called Finding Your Way, Crafting Your Personal Mission Statement. And we'll be relaunching it soon. We'll share all of that on our social media, in our newsletter. If you're not signed up for that, please get signed up so you don't miss out on anything. I think that's it for this week, other than your homework, which is to figure out, like, one, to join our circle, and two, to figure out what it is you're going to do to fight the good fight this, going forward. So with all of that being said, I think that's it for this week.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
okay, everyone. Well, have a great week. Fight the good fight. Let us know how it's going, and we will talk to you all again next week.
Thanks so much for listening to We Go Boldly podcast. We know you're busy and we love spending time with you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. Head to Apple Podcasts right now to rate and review our show. While you're there, be sure to click that subscribe button.
Want more us time? Follow us on all the socials at Go Boldly Together.
Want even more us time? As in all the coaching pizzazz. Find us at goboldlyinitiative.com for all the info.
We will be back with more excitement, research, and deep thoughts next week.
Until then, keep on being the bold, brave, amazing people we know you already are.
The Power Moms Network, empowering moms to lift the world.